This conversation is not going to be comfortable. It's not gentle, and it's definitely not what you want to hear. But it is exactly what you need to understand if you're ready to break patterns that have been controlling your life since childhood. Since you were little, you've been taught to look outward for the source of your pain, to find someone to blame, to put a name and face on your suffering. And yes, many times that name is your mother's. But here's what nobody dares to tell you. It's not your mother who's still holding you back today. It's what your mind did with the experience of her. This is not criticism. This is not an attack. It's a truth so uncomfortable that very few dare to name it. The mother lives in your unconscious long after she has left the room. You've tried to move forward, you've sought peace, but peace doesn't come when you're still trapped in a war you don't recognize. Do you know which war? The war against an image, against a figure that is neither flesh nor bone but shadow, an archetype that settled inside you before you could even speak. And the most devastating part? This shadow doesn't leave on its own. Carl Jung called it the mother complex. It's not just another psychological label, it's an emotional prison with invisible bars. It's that voice that judges you without speaking. It's that emptiness that can't be filled with anything external. It's that desperate need for approval you've been dragging around since childhood. The cruelest part is that it's not even yours. It's an inheritance, an echo, a mark on the skin of your soul that you never asked for. You may wonder, how do you heal something like this? Here's where the real work begins. As long as you keep seeing your mother as an all-powerful figure, whether to idolize her or to blame her, you're not seeing your mother. You're seeing a myth, a projection, a distorted image shaped by years of unmet needs, unnamed wounds, and silences loaded with resentment. That myth rules your life more than you'd like to admit. Every decision you make seeking approval, every relationship that breaks because you expect someone to save you, every time you can't set boundaries. All of that has roots much deeper than you think. Those roots are born in your childhood, in a gaze that was missing, in a hug that never came, in a word that was never said. Now you're an adult, but inside you're still that child who wanted mom to tell him everything was going to be okay. But here's the most brutal part. It's not going to happen anymore, because healing isn't making her change. Healing is stopping waiting for her to do so. And that realization is devastating. They told you that forgiveness is the key, that understanding her is the way, that you must put yourself in her shoes. Yes, all that can help, but not if you don't first do the most important thing. Look inward and recognize that the wound is no longer anyone else's responsibility. It's yours, only yours, and no one is coming to heal it for you. Tell me something. How many times have you caught yourself acting like her? How many times have you said or done things you swore you'd never repeat? There lies the trap. The complex is not only emotional, it's behavioral. It inhabits you. It guides you. And if you don't make it conscious, it turns you into its repetition. The pattern repeats over and over again until someone has the courage to break it. Breaking it hurts because it's killing an illusion. It's giving up hope that one day what wasn't will be. It's accepting that there will be no magical repair, that childhood will not return, that the comfort you didn't receive, you'll have to give yourself. Are you willing to do that? Are you ready to stop expecting to be loved the way you needed and start loving yourself as you deserve? Because that's the door. There's no other. The mother, in Jung's language, is not just the woman who gave you life. She's an archetype, a symbol. She represents origin, security, emotional nourishment. But she can also represent suffocation, dependence, fear of being yourself. When that archetype isn't integrated, it becomes a shadow you project onto everything. Your partners, your bosses, your friends. You expect someone to save you, to understand you without having to explain anything, to care for you unconditionally. But that's not love, it's lack. And lack isn't filled with another person. It's filled with truth, with awareness, with courage. The first step is to stop idealizing her. She wasn't perfect, She wasn't a goddess, but she wasn't the demon you sometimes feel she was either. She was a human being, broken, wounded, with her own internal battles. She did what she could with what she had, and sometimes what she had was very little. That doesn't excuse the damage, but it explains it. By understanding this, something loosens. Not as an act of forced forgiveness, but as a liberating understanding. Because idealization is as toxic as resentment. Both keep you trapped. Both take you away from reality. The reality is this: you don't need a mother anymore. You need a stronger you, a more compassionate you, a more aware you, and that version of you doesn't appear by itself. You have to build it. Want to know how? Start by observing your reactions. Every time you feel rejected, ask yourself, who am I really seeing? The person in front of me, or the wound I haven't healed yet? Every time you demand unconditional love, ask yourself, do I want love or do I want repair? Every time you abandon yourself so another won't abandon you, ask yourself, who abandoned me first? Healing isn't linear. It's not pretty. It's a descent into uncomfortable truths. It's facing the memories you buried, reliving them, feeling them, and then letting them go. Sometimes that inner child cries. Other times it screams. It sabotages you. It gets angry because it has been waiting too long to be heard. Listen to it. Don't try to silence it with empty self-help phrases. Don't cover it up with spiritual bypassing. Give it space. Ask it what it needed, and then give it to yourself. Self-compassion isn't weakness. It's medicine. It's the only balm that works when everything else has failed. To practice it, you need courage, because there's a part of you that has learned to despise itself, to blame itself, to demand from itself the same punishment that was once imposed on it. Break that cycle. Re-educating yourself emotionally isn't just reading books. It's seeing yourself with new eyes. It's creating new responses. It's stopping the search for mothers in the wrong places. Let me tell you clearly, the world won't give you what you didn't receive. It's not designed for that. The world will demand from you, judge you, ignore you. And there, in the middle of that chaos, you have to build yourself. Emotional freedom begins when you stop repeating the pattern, when you choose differently, when you realize you're no longer 5 years old. You're no longer trapped in that house. You no longer depend on a caress. You no longer need permission to be yourself. But there's a part of you that still believes it, that still hopes, that still silently begs. That part isn't to blame, but you do have the responsibility to heal it. Do it now, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, now. Because if you wait to feel prepared, you'll never start. Healing doesn't come when everything is calm. It comes in the middle of noise, of chaos, of fear. When it comes, it doesn't feel like you expected. It feels like loss, like emptiness, like silence. Because healing is also letting go of a part of you that you knew very well. It's saying goodbye to the victim role. It's stopping waiting and starting acting. Does it hurt? Yes, but it hurts more to stay where you are. Look at yourself. Really look. Ask yourself, what part of my suffering still belongs to that internal figure I call mother? And how much longer am I willing to let it control me? Make peace, not with her, with yourself. Because in the end, the most important mother isn't the one who raised you. It's the one you choose to be with yourself. And that one is yet to be born. Now let me take you deeper into something we haven't touched. A darker layer, more hidden but incredibly powerful. The invisible loyalty. Yes, you heard that right. A loyalty you didn't choose, but that directs you as if you had a string tied to your soul. No matter how much you progress, how many books you read, or how many therapies you do, if you don't understand this principle, you'll always come back to the same point. Your unconscious believes that if you surpass your mother, you betray her. That's how perverse the game is. Don't think about it logically. This is not reasoned, it's felt. It's imprinted deep inside your emotional system. You grew up learning that your identity was tied to hers, that what she lived, suffered, or believed, you also had to carry. Without realizing it, you made a pact, a silent pact, an invisible promise that says, I won't be better than you, Mom. I won't be freer than you. I won't fully heal if you didn't do it first. See the prison? The most terrifying part is that this prison looks like love. We're not talking about hate or anger. We're talking about an unconscious fidelity that chains you to her pain, her frustration, her limits. That's why you repeat stories you don't understand. That's why every time you're about to achieve something bigger, you sabotage yourself. Because a part of you says, if I'm happy and she wasn't, then I'm being disloyal. But here's the brutal truth. Your pain doesn't honor her. Your stagnation doesn't save her. Your unhappiness doesn't repair her. So why do you keep carrying what doesn't belong to you? There's a scene that repeats in thousands of wounded souls. The child who doesn't allow themselves to live fully so as not to hurt the feelings of a mother who's no longer here or who was never really there. It's as if deep down you want to tell her, look, Mom, I suffer too, so you're not alone in your sadness. That's what's killing you. The real betrayal isn't leaving her story behind. It's continuing to repeat it. Because if you really love her, if you really want to free yourself without dishonoring her, then there's something you must understand. Honoring the mother is surpassing her, not as an act of ego, not as rejection, but as evolution. She gave you life, and you have to multiply it, not reduce it. You have to turn that inherited pain into something new, into awareness, into transformation, into authentic life. But for that, you need to break the secret vow, the one you made before you could even speak, the one that says, I won't be freer than you. Break that promise. Not with anger, with love. Tell her in silence, even if she's no longer here or can't hear you, Mom, thank you for what you could give me, but now I follow a different path. That path is not toward resentment. It's toward your freedom. Because as long as you live trapped in that hidden fidelity, everything will become repetition. You will repeat her fears, her frustrations, her way of loving, her way of not setting boundaries, her need to be accepted, her guilt, her sacrifice, her pain. And you will do it without knowing it. Have you realized how many decisions in your life have been guided by that shadow? Maybe that's why you can't tolerate rejection. Maybe that's why you feel guilty when things go well for you. Maybe that's why you choose partners who make you feel small, not because you're weak, but because you're being loyal. But that loyalty has a very high price, your life. If you dare question it, if you look it in the face, something opens up. A void appears. A strange silence. Because for the first time, you're separating your identity from hers. For the first time, you're saying, I am not you, and you are not me. For the child you were, that feels like abandonment. But for the adult you can be, that is birth. That's where it all begins. It's not about cutting off the relationship. It's about redefining it within you. Because even if your mother was the most loving, the coldest, the most absent, or the most overprotective, what matters is not her. What matters is the place you have given her in your psyche. That place, if you don't organize it, becomes an altar or a prison. Either you idealize her or you enslave yourself to her, but both are the same, a distortion. The only way to heal is to dismantle the fantasy, and that fantasy takes many forms. The martyr mother, the perfect mother, the sacrificed mother, the omnipresent mother. But none of those figures is real. They're constructions of your mind, myths that prevent you from seeing the essential. She was also a daughter. She also dragged her own ghosts. She was also a victim of her context. She also loved as she could. She also failed. And you are not here to repeat her destiny. You are here for something bigger, to transform that emotional inheritance into wisdom, to make the unconscious conscious, to close a cycle so that your children, if you have or will have any, don't carry what you're carrying now. Because that is what's inherited. Not objects, not genes, but unresolved patterns, undigested emotions, silenced traumas, the weight of the unspoken. Here comes the most important part of all this. You cannot change the past, but you can change how the past lives inside you. Do it not for her, for you. You don't need to break up with your mother. You need to break up with the distorted archetype you carry inside. You need to dismantle the voice that judges you every time you shine. You need to question the guilt you feel every time you choose yourself. That liberation is not against her. It's for you, because the original wound doesn't define your destiny. What defines it is what you do with it. How much longer will you keep paying homage to a pattern that no longer serves you? How much longer will you live dragging a story that you didn't even start? The time has come to turn that inherited pain into your engine, to stop surviving and start living. But for that, you need one thing: courage. Courage to let go of loyalty. Courage to rebuild yourself without that figure who either gave you everything or denied you everything. Courage to look in the mirror and say, "Now I am the one who takes care of me." When you do that, when you choose yourself, when you free yourself, then and only then will you truly honor your mother. Because the greatest tribute you can give to the one who gave you life is to live it. Just when you think you've let go, when you think you've finally broken that internal loyalty, something else appears. Something more subtle, harder to detect, more treacherous. Emotional self-abandonment. Yes, it's directly linked to that mother archetype still living in your shadow. Because what does a child do when they don't receive the emotional care they need? They adapt. They shut up. They learn to ignore themselves, to repress, to pretend it doesn't hurt. That survival skill becomes, years later, your way of life. Have you noticed how you treat yourself? How you talk to yourself inside? How you demand from yourself what you would never demand from someone you love? That's no coincidence. It's the continuation of the same pattern. It's the way that poorly integrated archetype expresses itself inside you. You, yourself, reproducing the abandonment you lived, but now from within. Here comes the most brutal knot of this story. No one is hurting you now. You are the one who keeps hurting yourself in the name of old programming. Every time you deny yourself rest, every time you minimize your pain, every time you betray yourself to avoid making others uncomfortable, every time you accept the unacceptable out of fear of not being loved, you're repeating the same script. If I ignore myself, maybe they'll love me. Do you know what that means? You learned to survive by ceasing to exist emotionally, and that is a slow massacre, invisible, silent. You have become your own authoritarian figure, the one who doesn't let you cry, the one who demands you be strong, the one who pushes you to perform, to give, to hold everyone except yourself. The more you abandon yourself, the more you expect someone else to come rescue you. But that won't happen because no one can give you what you're not giving yourself. Here's the real revolution. Start taking care of yourself like no one ever did. Be your internal mother. Re-educate yourself from scratch. Learn to give yourself the affection you were denied, to give yourself permission to feel without judgment, to speak to yourself tenderly when you fall, to not demand perfection when you only need comfort. At first it sounds strange because for years you've been used to the whip, to criticism, to emotional coldness. But none of that is yours. It's borrowed software, a system you inherited not because it works, but because it was all you knew. Want to break that cycle? Start by asking yourself, how would I treat a child who just went through what I went through? What would I say if I saw them exhausted, worn out, on the verge of breaking? Would I push them, tell them they're weak? Or would I hold them without asking anything in return? Now realize that child is you. Yes, even today. Even if you're 30, 40, 50 years old, even if you've hardened, even if you seem to have it all under control, that child is still there, still waiting, but no one is coming. not how you imagine. Because it's not about finding the perfect savior. It's about becoming the figure you needed. This is not cheap mysticism. It's deep psychology. Jung knew it. What is not made conscious manifests in your life as destiny. And this applies here brutally. If you don't make self-abandonment conscious, you will repeat it in every relationship, every job, every decision. You will live from scarcity, from emotional hunger, from the need to be saved. The paradox is this: you only stop needing to be saved when you become your own refuge. Difficult? Of course, because no one taught you how to do it. They taught you to compete, to perform, to prove yourself. But they didn't teach you to hold your inner world, much less to embrace your own shadows. Here we come to another forgotten piece, the negative inner mother. That voice you carry inside that is not yours. The one that tells you you're not enough, that you're late, that you don't deserve it, that you need more, that you shouldn't feel what you feel. That voice is not you, but you have adopted it as if it were your conscience. And it's not. It's an internalized figure, a distorted archetypal energy that occupies the space of your self-esteem. Until you dismantle it, you will live believing your worst enemy is you. And you're not. You're just repeating what you learned. How do you dismantle it? By listening to it. Yes, listening. Because what you resist persists, but what you observe transforms. The next time that voice appears, don't run. Don't silence it. Don't try to cover it up with empty affirmations. Look at it. Ask it. Where do you come from? Who do you belong to? What are you repeating to me that isn't even mine? You will see. You will see the threads. You will see the origin. And in that moment, something inside you will awaken. Not like a mystical illumination, but like a brutal clarity. You will realize you've lived trapped in a discourse you never questioned, and when you question it, you regain your power. That is the true psychological awakening. Not mantras, not gurus, but this moment, the instant you stop being the echo of your childhood and become the author of your adult life. But beware, don't confuse this with cheap positivity. It's not about ignoring the pain. It's about taking responsibility, about seeing yourself without filters, about stopping asking someone to fill your emptiness and instead beginning to fill it yourself with small, conscious actions. Want a guide? Here it is. Start by not abandoning yourself when you need it most. When you're tired, don't push yourself. Rest. When you're sad, don't judge yourself. Accompany yourself. When you feel afraid, don't be ashamed. Listen to yourself. That is the new language, the new internal motherhood, the new emotional structure that breaks centuries of inherited patterns. I know all this sounds immense, unmanageable, but remember, you don't have to do it perfectly. You just have to do it differently, because if you don't break the cycle, no one will do it for you. The change you so desperately want isn't outside. It's in every inner gesture. Every time you choose to take care of yourself even when you don't feel like it. Every boundary you set even if your voice trembles. Every no you say so you can say a yes to yourself. That is the true act of love. And that, believe it or not, is an act of revolution. Because in a world that teaches you to demand, punish, and compare yourself, choosing to treat yourself with tenderness is a subversive act. It's looking your family history in the eyes and saying, with me, the pattern breaks. Not because you're better, not because you're stronger, but because you've decided to wake up. When you wake up, nothing can put you back to sleep. Not judgment, not guilt, not that old voice that used to paralyze you, because you no longer walk seeking approval. You walk from within, from a new route. A route built with awareness, boundaries, real love, not a love that demands, not a love that sacrifices, a love that sustains, that respects, that cares. The kind of love you should have always received and that now you can give yourself. That, even if it doesn't seem like it, is the true inheritance worth leaving behind. When you get this far, Something inside you has already changed. You don't need anyone to confirm it. You feel it. It's that subtle vibration that appears when you've looked at something you've been avoiding your whole life. It's that strange mix between emptiness and power, between grief and rebirth. Because the end of this entire journey isn't internal applause or magical enlightenment. It's silence. A new silence. A clean silence. Because finally, you dared to break the noise of what was inherited. Now you understand why many times you didn't know who you really were. Why it was so hard to be at peace with yourself. Because you lived inhabited by voices that weren't yours, burdened by needs that weren't born with you, reacting from a pain that came from generations ago. But no more. What remains now is yours. Your space. Your identity. Your voice. Here's the most interesting part. It's not that you're going to live without wounds. It's that for the first time, you will live with them consciously. And that changes everything. Because wounds aren't the problem. The problem is living running away from them, pretending they don't exist. Pretending that if you don't name them, they disappear. But they don't disappear. They transform when you look at them, when you speak about them, when you go through them. At that final crossing, something is born. Your true emotional maturity. Not the one based on controlling everything or pretending coldness, but the one that accepts that inside you coexist broken parts and wise parts. Parts that still cry and parts that have already learned to hold on. Do you know what that means? You have crossed the threshold, that point of no return where you stop being a symbolic child of the past and become the symbolic father or mother of your present. You no longer live from what was missing. You live from what you choose to create. That is a power very few reach because it requires courage, brutal honesty, and an almost wild will to let go of excuses, justifications, inherited fears, and begin to live yourself from within, not from the echo of an ancient story. Now that you know this, what are you going to do with it? Because here the video ends, but the important part begins. The invisible part. The part no one else will see, but you will feel every day. In every choice. In every new way you treat yourself. Every time you don't repeat the pattern. Every time you choose from awareness, not from lack. That, even if no one applauds it, is a form of freedom that can't be bought. So I leave you with one last idea. One that maybe sums up everything you just heard. When self-love is born from healed pain, it stops being a trend and becomes a silent revolution. If you've come this far, make it clear in the comments. I want to know who are the ones who don't just see but dare to feel every word. Write down below, I am the end of the pattern. Because if you made it to the end, you're no longer the same. You've seen what others don't even dare to look at. If this shook you, made you think, touched some sleeping part of you, subscribe. Not for me. For you. Because here we don't come to entertain egos, but to awaken consciousness. And the journey is just beginning. Turn on that bell because what's coming is going to challenge you. But it will free you. See you in the next video. Or maybe not. Maybe you'll just find yourself in the echo of what you just heard. Either way, you're awake. And that, my friend, there's no turning back now. Go and do something that scares you a little. Talk to yourself like you never have. Stay silent. Cry if you need to. Or look at yourself without judgment for 10 seconds. 10. That's enough to start. Because when you change the way you treat yourself, the world changes the way it responds to you. If you don't believe it, try it. But do it from there. From the deep place, from where you no longer need anyone to save you. Because now, finally, you know, the Savior was you. Until then, may the world tremble when you start living without repeating what broke you. See you soon. Or maybe you'll be too busy rebuilding yourself. Either way, I'm glad you made it here. Until now.